defense by the United States. Vance spoke in Munich, painting a picture of European politics infected by media censorship and political correctness. Here's CBS's Elizabeth Palmer.
The vice president's speech was a broadside aimed at European leaders who just weren't expecting it, especially Germany's. It's not only hosting the conference, but will be heading into national elections next week. The address accused mainstream European politicians of failing to control immigration and then eroding free speech by muzzling far-right anti-immigration parties.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within.
They're detaining folks just for praying. Not yelling, not protesting, just silently praying. Sounds crazy, right? But it's real. A British Army vet, Adam Smith-Connor, got fined just for praying near an abortion clinic.
I have to pay for a subscription, and they don't give me a free subscription. So I'm not going to give them a free subscription.
But were you throttling the New York Times relative to other news organizations, relative to everybody else? Was it specific to the Times?
They didn't buy a subscription. By the way, it only costs like $1,000 a month. So if they just do that, then they're back in the saddle.
But you are saying that it was throttled.
No, I'm saying.
I mean, was there a conversation that you had with somebody? You said, look, you know, I'm unhappy with the Times. They should either be buying the subscription, or I don't like their content, or whatever.
Any organization that refuses to buy a subscription is not going to be recommended.
But then what does that say about free speech?
He wasn't stopping anyone, wasn't making a scene, just standing there, head down, saying a quiet prayer, that's all. But it didn't end there. UK authorities have made it clear that even if you're caught praying inside your own home, you could still land in trouble.
No, but I'm kind of thinking just for a moment about this, that this is the man who talked about grabbing women by the pussy. Is there any part of you that feels, this is not my guy, I don't want this guy to be talking like this about any woman at all? Do you not despair for the future in any ways?
Sweetie, I would rather be grabbed by the pussy than have a pussy for president. Woo!
And
go you, go you, go you.
And you're happy with that language?
I'm very happy with that language. Look, none of us are that polite behind closed doors. My girlfriends have ruder language. Real men have ruder language. The gentleman clapping is a real man, obviously. He would have ruder language than pussy. I'm not offended by the expression.
He's no longer in the locker room. He's in the Oval Office.
Sure, and that was a private conversation 8 years ago before he was running.
JD Vance, the US Vice President, ain't mincing words. He's calling this a full-on attack on free speech. And his message is clear. The UK is turning into something unrecognisable.
Announced that the need was met, so I have to shut down the fundraiser. Thank you for everyone's generosity. End quote. ADF International, an organization supporting Adam's legal defense, had stated in a Twitter post that this was the first non-conviction of a thought crime in modern British history. Adam was ordered to pay £9,000 in legal costs to the prosecution. Adam Smith-Connor is a Christian convert who has served in the army for 20 years, including in Afghanistan. He's a healthcare professional and a church volunteer. Since his conversion, Adam regretted aborting a baby he had with his girlfriend and had been praying silently for unborn babies and their parents. On 24th November 2022, Bournemouth police questioned and fined Adam, although he was standing alone with his back to the abortion facility.
He warns this ain't just about one guy or one case, it's about a dangerous shift where the government decides what folks can think, say, and even pray. Interestingly, he ain't the only one sounding the alarm. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith-Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 m from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes.
In 2022, a British Army veteran stood in front of an abortion clinic in southern England. He silently clasped his hands and bowed his head, and he was arrested. He's now been convicted in a British court of violating the buffer zone around the clinic. The court said that his prayer-like posture was enough to signal his, quote, disapproval of abortion, unquote, enough to prosecute him. And make no mistake about it, this is exactly what the pro-abortion left wants in America, too. If you think the First Amendment offers protection, think again. Numerous cases have been brought against American pro-lifers for praying in front of clinics. Sometimes they win, but sometimes they don't. and the left wants to make sure they're legally harassed. Keep an eye on England, because what happens there often happens here a few years later.
He wasn't obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. After British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply that it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalised silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 m of an abortion facility. So what does this mean if personal freedoms can be wiped out this easily in one of the world's oldest democracies?
Conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own.
Vice President Vance taking a strong stance for free speech and religious liberty on the international stage this weekend. Adam Smith Connor, who was highlighted in the speech, joins us now, along with Senior Legal Communications Officer for the Alliance Defending Freedom International, Lois McClatchy Miller. Welcome to you both. What an honor to have you both on. I'm going to start with you, Adam. How surprised were you?
What's stopping it from happening elsewhere? The US is watching closely, and the question is clear. If Britain, once a symbol of free speech, is now cracking down on basic rights, what's next? If they can fine you for silently praying, what else can they punish you for?
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Musk. I just wanted to ask you, that President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with the way things were going, and if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
Let the cabinet speak just for a second.
Yeah, exactly. Elon Musk is asking the same thing, and he ain't staying quiet. Musk isn't one to sit back when something feels off. When news broke about a British Army vet getting fined for praying in silence, he wasn't having it. He took to X, slamming the UK government for what he called a betrayal of democracy. In his own words, this ain't what the UK should stand for. And Musk ain't just annoyed, he's furious.
Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing about it, and if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. Any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that.
When Musk talks, people listen. So within hours, his post on X sparked a firestorm, and thousands jumped in, sharing their own stories of censorship restrictions and fines over speech. Some posted clips of police questioning citizens over their beliefs. Others shared warnings from UK authorities threatening people for so-called wrong thinking. The reaction is a massive online movement demanding free speech protections in the UK. Now the government is scrambling, officials are frustrated, and one of the world's most powerful voices just put them under the spotlight, and it ain't looking good. But Musk ain't just tweeting, he's taking action where it really hurts. Business. He's hinted that Tesla's future in the UK might not be as certain if the country keeps heading down this path. Why should Tesla expand there? Why invest in a place that's cracking down on the very freedoms that made Western democracies great?
Today, and in response, he's posted a meme which says, take a step back and literally, excuse my language, fuck your own face. That's pretty bold, isn't it? It's quite funny as well, but is he playing a dangerous game here?
No, I don't think he's playing a dangerous game for him personally. But I think it's absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love to see it. So, I mean, especially with the EU, I mean, that letter, I don't know if you read the whole thing. It was quite long-winded. But it started off by saying, following the events in the United Kingdom and that your interview with Donald Trump is coming up, and then it just kind of listed off the whole things that he, it was like threat after threat. It makes me understand why Keir Starmer loves the EU so much, because it seems that they're very aligned in their thinking. This kind of
The message is loud and clear. Free speech ain't just about politics, it's about the economy too. Now, the big question, does Britain care? Will the UK government double down, or will they realise that pushing away figures like Musk could have real consequences? One thing's for sure, Musk ain't backing down, and this fight is just getting started.
So we were talking about, information and information flow, and limiting information flow, and obviously you and I were just at Auschwitz today, which is a heavy experience. And one of the things that we were learning about and talking about was how limited flow of information allows for atrocities to happen. What was your takeaway?
Exactly. Essentially, when the Germans came in, the first thing they did was shut down all the press. So everything was heavily censored. So anything you couldn't say anything that unless it was approved by the government. I think really free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And free speech is what allows atrocities to be called out and for people to be aware of them. That's why the Germans wanted to shut down the press immediately.
But it gets even crazier. A few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law.
I think people should be mindful of the first priority, which is to ensure that our communities are safe and secure. The vast majority of the public are absolutely repulsed by what they've seen in this disorder. They don't want it, and they expect all of us, myself included, to do everything we possibly can to ensure that the disorder stops. And that's why the message to those that are thinking about getting involved in disorder of any sort is very clear. If you involve yourself in disorder, then the full force of the law will be applied. And the fact that we've seen this week people not just in court but being sentenced to significant terms of custody for their behaviour just a few days ago, I think is a very important message to anyone who's thinking of getting involved in the country.
Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizen suspected guilty of a thought crime. And when you think things can't get worse, Keir Starmer has made it clear he ain't bowing to Elon Musk. The UK Prime Minister made that crystal clear as he brushed off Musk's criticism, refusing to engage with him directly. His message implies that Musk won't dictate to him. To Starmer, the Tesla CEO is just an outsider, a billionaire stirring up controversy from across the Atlantic. In his eyes, Britain's laws ain't up for debate, just because a tech mogul doesn't like them. But here's where it gets interesting. Starmer's response to Musk ain't just about free speech, it's part of a much bigger political power struggle. While he's dismissing Musk, he's also facing serious tensions with Donald Trump. The UK-US trade talks have hit a rough patch, with Trump pushing for tariffs that Starmer strongly opposes.
And the left wants to oppress your freedoms, especially freedom of speech, and they want to have a non-merit-based society, with race-based and sex-based preferences. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, we just want people to succeed based on their skills and their hard work.
And if they don't want people to express themselves about particular issues, then they're not doing the will of the people. And if they're trying to suppress people's ability to communicate, they're only doing that because they want to do things that people don't want them to do.
Yes.
And they want to silence opposition. That's all it is. And the
100%.
fact that people can't see that and they want to call Trump a fascist, the whole thing is just through the looking glass. It's just.
I mean, it's like one hoax after another that they're perpetrating against Trump. I mean, like they try to call the rally at Madison Square Garden like a Nazi rally. I'm like, yo, there was like literally an Israeli flag in the audience. I think like a quarter of the speakers were Jewish. Like there were people of every race, color, creed, religion at that rally. Like, tell me what about that is Nazi?
There is no doubt that Musk's criticism is just adding more fuel to the fire. For now, Starmer's holding his ground, but ignoring Musk and by extension millions who support free speech could cost him politically. The real question is how long can he afford to keep dodging this conversation?
People in this country have a right to be safe. And yet, we've seen Muslim communities targeted, attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, wanton violence alongside racist rhetoric. So no, I won't shy away from calling it what it is: far-right thuggery.
If Starmer wants stronger ties with the US, why is he alienating some of the most influential figures connected to Trump? Musk ain't just any billionaire, he's one of the most powerful voices on the global stage. His opinions shape public perception, influence policy debates, and even impact business decisions. So ignoring him won't make the issue disappear. In fact, it makes Starmer look weak. Interestingly, Starmer has spent months clashing with Donald Trump over trade tariffs and foreign policy. But now suddenly he wants a meeting. After refusing talks, Starmer is reaching out hoping to fix his shaky relationship with Trump. Is he finally realizing that the UK needs the US more than he thought? This move is raising eyebrows because just days ago, Starmer was brushing off Elon Musk, refusing to even acknowledge his concerns about free speech in the UK. And yet, Musk and Trump are tight. They both agree on free speech regulation and big tech's role in democracy. Musk has Trump's ear, and the two back each other up regularly. So, the big question: why is Starmer suddenly desperate to talk to Trump, but acting like Musk doesn't exist? It is like he's fine with talking to world leaders when it benefits him, but runs from critics when they call out his policies. So what's the end game? If Starmer is serious about fixing ties with the US, does he really think he can pull it off while shutting out Musk? The contradictions are piling up, and sooner or later, he'll have to answer for them, because at this point, his actions are speaking louder than his words. If you enjoyed this political firestorm, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating content.